Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Gourmet Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. Listen, I just want to say the chat is already off the rails. I walk away to get a cup of Joe for 2 seconds. I'm getting raked over the coals for going late, and somehow other or another, Matt LaFleur takes strays from it. This is unbelievable. You guys are out of control. So hopefully everybody's having an awesome morning here on Friday. It is Friday, right? I believe it's Friday. This show already sucks. November the 7th. Listen, the work schedule's slowing down for me, so we're going to be doing more of these morning shows, afternoon shows, all that good stuff. But I wanted to dive in here. Yeah, good to see you, Holmes. I wanted to dive in here and see what everybody thinks about the playoffs right now, right? Obviously, we're going into week 10. It actually kicked off last night. And by the way, did anybody see Sean Payton? Anybody calling for Sean Payton's job because he only beat a horrible team by 3 points? Just want to put that question out there. I thought that was interesting. Got the Eagles game from 2 weeks ago on the big screen over here as they boat race. I'm pretty sure they boat raced the Giants. Saquon Barkley went absolutely off in that game. So just trying to get a little bit better feel for where the Eagles are at. But what I want to do this morning is dive into the playoff roadmap. I'm going to try to slow down a little bit this morning and actually include people in the chat. I know when we're solo, it's hard to do that. Usually Jacob is marking some chats for us and Emilio and the guys, Tim, they'll also kind of give us an idea of, hey, here's what so-and-so saying, throw that up there. So hopefully we can jump in here and have a little bit of a conversation about it. The approach I took too, I've got my opinion. You guys are probably tired of hearing my opinions, to be honest with you. I'm tired of giving my opinions when you do a show every day. But I asked AI, hey, give me a roadmap for the Packers making the playoffs. It gave me a little roadmap. I said, give me multiple scenarios. It laid that out. So if this information, if any of it's inaccurate, that I'm going to read off to you guys, and we're just going to kind of dive into it section by section. You guys let me know in the chat what y'all think here, okay? And what's really interesting about this time of year, once you get to November, obviously with the playoffs right around the corner, you get to November, the playoffs have kind of already started. What they've done with college football is beautiful because right now the playoffs are already underway in college football, which is really, really cool. Like I'm down here in Tennessee. You had Tennessee and Oklahoma face off the other day. Basically, whoever loses that game, they're out of the playoffs. So you're talking about going into the first week of November and you've already got that atmosphere hyped up, right? The same thing applies for the National Football League. Now, listen, anything can happen down the stretch, as we all would agree, but it's just really, really cool to see the stage get a little more light on it, right? Shine a little more of that limelight on these specific games. And I'm telling you, man, this Packers-Eagles game, Monday Night Football, I hope the fans bring the juice, and I know they will. Lambeau faithful will. This game is going to be like a playoff game. Now, there's some people that say if the Packers lose this game, oh, there's no way they're making the playoffs. I don't understand how you can have that opinion with 7 weeks left. However, if they win this game, boy, do they put themselves in the driver's seat, And as many people are saying, wouldn't that be the most 2025 Green Bay Packers thing ever to happen, to have a team lose to the Carolina Panthers at home and then turn around and beat the Eagles on Monday Night Football, right? Well, it happens every year in the league. You guys have heard me say that over and over and over. So we're going to dive into all that. Before we do, if you guys would, do that YouTube stuff for me real quick. Hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning in to PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your morning. We're not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media members. We're fans just like you talking Packers on the daily. So make sure you click subscribe, click that bell icon so you're notified when we go live here in the future. So here we go. Let's jump into it, all right? Boz earlier. Who's running the play clock? Matt LaFleur. There you go. Coach is getting raked over the coals this morning, man. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Let's see what J. Cole says before we kick off. It is going to be one good NFC team that does not make the playoffs. Very, very true, Jay. And again, and I know whatever team that is, whether it's the Packers or another team, the fan base for that specific team is going to pretend like that team sucks at football, and that's just not the case, right? That's why I always say when we go, get to about the halfway point of the year, you got some people that if you don't win your division, oh, your team sucks. If you're not a top 2 or 3 seed, your team sucks. Guys, it's the NFL, man. The goal is to punch your ticket to the playoffs and then try to be playing your best football as you go into the playoffs. Me, there's nothing better than watching the Packers play at Lambeau Field with meaningful football. So I love the cold weather at Lambeau, hosting playoff games. That's what I'm hoping for, obviously. So Boz says, how do I watch Monday Night Football is the question. Do I have to get Hulu for a day? So Boz, I went through this problem. I've been subscribed to ESPN Plus for a couple of years, ever since they launched it, whenever that was. I wanted to watch Peyton's Places. I love that show. A couple other things, right? Well, as soon as all this came down the pike, I'm like, oh, I'm good. I got ESPN Plus. I got access to everything on ESPN. I jump over to the ESPN app, and what happens? I see the games. I click on it, and it just shows the screen, like the thumbnail for the video. I'm like, what the hell's going on? I look into it. So they launched NFL Plus, and then they launched another package called, not NFL Plus, ESPN Plus. And then they launched another package called ESPN Unlimited. You got to have unlimited. So I could watch cricket in Germany live, but I didn't have Monday Night Football. I didn't have College Game Day. It was absolutely wild, right? So if you're going to go the ESPN route, you got to get ESPN Unlimited. You can get it for a month. I want to say it's like $30 a month. So it's pretty pricey, right, for most people. With that being said, it is going to be on ABC. So if you want to watch Monday Night Football without having to pay anything extra, Hulu, any of that, right? What you can do is get you one of those antennas. They cost like $15 last I checked. And you can pick up ABC just fine. And it's actually pretty high quality too. You know, when I first heard antenna before, I had a buddy that did this. I thought, man, that thing going to be kind of crackly and the quality is going to be horrible, right? Not the case at all. It was actually pretty good quality. So that's probably the easiest way to go in terms of that. And as J. Cole says, they are greedy as hell. Yeah, listen, when Disney started to buy up everything, they started to buy up Hulu. They started buying, and everybody got kind of excited. The Disney fans got excited. I was going, boy, they're setting us up for the hook right here, man. They, you know what I'm talking about. They got that spinner bait, boy. They just crank, and they're ready to bam. And that's exactly what's happened, essentially, right? So you could see ESPN and Disney. Disney owns ESPN. You could see them jockeying for position and trying to get themselves in a perfect situation and bang, pull the plug, right? And in reality, what happened, the way I understand it, again, I'm not in the board meetings, but it sounds like they wanted to jack the price up on YouTube TV, right? And then now they're kind of holding their feet to the fire, but it's backfiring. I think last I heard, $5 million per day is what ESPN is losing by it not being on YouTube TV. So I tip my cap to YouTube TV for standing firm, because if they did pay more for that, guess what happens to all of us? The YouTube TV subscription price goes up, right? So people are pretending like YouTube TV is the greedy one. The others are pretending like ESPN is the greedy one. In the meantime, ESPN is marching all their employees out there, the people we follow on social media like Kirk Herbstreit and these guys, marching them out there to the slaughter, right? Just going, hey, yeah, go out there and basically tell everybody, send this link. And it's so clickbaity too. It's like, it's a link going, hey, get your TV back. And I'm thinking, all right, this is a solution. Kirk thought it was a solution. He didn't click on the link. He just did what his bosses told him. You click on the link, and what does it do? It takes you to a website and basically says, here's how you get in touch with all these providers to tell them they're screwing up by not paying us more money. I'm like, boy, it's a really weird deal. So anyway, yeah, I'm with you, Ed. Ed Madden says, stick to your guns, YouTube. Completely agree, man. Completely agree. We'll figure out a way. We'll figure out a way to watch the game, but don't give in to the greed, man. It's absolutely wild. So anyway, let's jump into it, guys. 2025 playoff roadmap. And again, I wanted to do this in a couple of different ways. Let me make a couple of notes here so I don't lose track. 9 minutes. Sorry. So again, let's start off with the article that was written through the AI system here, okay? Green Bay Packers have about an 82% chance of making the playoffs. Sounds pretty good, right? Well, those odds take a hit if they lose on Monday night, and their path to the postseason is looking like a minefield. They are sitting on a 5-2-1 record, clinging to a narrow lead in the NFL's tightest division with a schedule that is absolutely brutal down the stretch. So what does their road to January football actually look like? We're about to break down every scenario from winning the NFC North to grabbing the wild card spot in a ridiculously packed NFC. So let's start with the problem, all right? It's going to give some BS here. Welcome back to the channel, right? Today, we're looking at the Green Bay Packers playoff picture heading into the second half of the 2025 NFL season. And let me tell you, it is complicated. As it stands, Heading into their Week 10 Monday night game, the Packers sit atop the NFC North with a 5-2-1 record, but that lead is on shaky ground. The Detroit Lions and Chicago Bears are right behind them at 5-3, and even the Minnesota Vikings are clinging around at 4-4. The division is a pressure cooker, and the margin for error is practically zero. All right. But the problem isn't just the division, it's the whole conference. The NFC is absolutely loaded this year. You have multiple 6-win teams like the Eagles, Buccaneers, Rams, and Seahawks. They didn't even mention the 49ers there. 49ers are another 6-win team, right? This means the wild card race is going to be a mad dash to the finish, and just having a winning record might not cut it. The Packers stood pat at the trade deadline, which tells you that Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur are betting on the guys they have in the locker room right now. It's a huge vote of confidence, but it also means no reinforcements are coming. This is the team. So here's what we're going to do. We're mapping out the road ahead. We'll look at the schedule, the key matchups, and break down the two main ways the Packers can punch their ticket to the postseason, winning the division or fighting for a wild card spot. We'll also touch on the nightmare scenario every fan is dreading. Let's get into it. So we're going to dive into it now. The golden ticket is obviously winning the NFC North. Good to see you there, Paige and Dr. Crutch. Thank you for swinging through. All right. Path number one, the cleanest and simplest route to the playoffs is winning the NFC North. Right now, the Packers have a plus 105 odds to win the division, making them slight favorites, but it's basically a coin flip. The best part, they control their own destiny. We've been kind of talking about this, guys. The Packers are in control right now. And I know there's some fans that makes them nervous, blah, 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 blah. Every year, I'm looking for the story of the Packers to be told. I want to know, where are they at? How do they truly stand? And then if they come out victorious, great. That's the team that they are. If they don't, then it kind of tells you, all right, here's what we're still lacking. People don't like it when I say this. I'm going to continue to say it because it freaking matters. The Packers are the youngest roster in the league. And you'll hear people say, yeah, well, they're the youngest roster, but they got a lot of experience. That don't make a rat's ass. It doesn't. It doesn't mean anything that they've got some experience. The reality is, why did you lose the game last week against Carolina? You throw a bubble screen to Savion Williams. I don't have a problem. I say bubble screen. He ran more of a smoke route. I think that's why Matt LaFleur was chewing him out. There was also a run pass option attached there, so they could have ran the 22 dive off of it as well if they wanted to go that route. They kick it out to Savion, and he fumbles the football on the opening drive. If he just doesn't fumble the football and you take 3 points there, you end up winning the ball game, right? Theoretically speaking. Savion is a rookie. You know why I wasn't raking Savion over the coals? I mean, on Chalk Talk, there's plenty of teaching tape there, right? You got to put that ball on the outside hand. Also, that play is designed to get outside, not cut back inside to the teeth of the defense where you had a -4 hat count. If you go outside of Romeo Dobbs there, catch the ball on a run, you've got a corner to beat to the pylon with a safety emerging there at the end of the play as well. Why do I point that out? He's a rookie. That's a perfect example of turning on the tape and going, this is what we mean by the youngest roster in the league. Those type of things are going to happen when you've got young players, specifically a rookie, putting the game in his hands, right? Now, again, the easy thing is stop throwing those screens, stop throwing those screens. Not a person on the face of the earth said that the week before in Pittsburgh when Savion took one in for a touchdown, right? So, and again, pre-snap, you had the hat count. If you wanted to play it conservative, you could have ran into a heavy box. I'm okay with that call. I'm okay with the call that was made. It was horrible execution by a rookie player. You're going to have that. That doesn't mean Savion's not going to be a great player. I think he's caught every pass thrown his way this year, by the way. That's positive, right? That doesn't mean he's not going to be a great player. It doesn't mean he doesn't have what it takes to play in the NFL. What it means is he's a young player. And that's the byproduct of having the youngest roster in the league. You're going to have things like that happen. You'd rather them happen now than during a deep playoff run, for sure. So, and as J. Cole says, yeah, I need a better block from Rome there too. Absolutely, right? Rome kind of he started to attack, he led up, and then got put on his heels, right? But again, if Savion takes it outside, it's not an issue either. So, great point there, though, Jay. Great point. All right, so here we go. Now, I apologize for the hacking, guys. I'm going to have to go back to the doctor. The Rona just will not leave. I've still got some kind of fluid or something in my lungs, so it's just, yeah, it is what it is. The season boils down to the divisional games left on their schedule. They've got one game left against the Chicago Bears, one against the Minnesota Vikings, and one massive Thanksgiving showdown against the Detroit Lions. This is where the division will be won or lost. Let's think about that for a second, guys. You've got one game left against the Chicago Bears, Actually, you've got more than that, right? So they got that wrong. Yeah, actually got both games against the Chicago Bears. So you got the Bears game, you got both the Vikings game, and you get that massive Thanksgiving Day showdown against the Detroit Lions. That's where the division is going to be decided. So I like our chances against the Bears and the Vikings personally. I do. Now, on any given Sunday, anything can happen. I typically have us splitting those games with the division, us winning home, them winning on the road, right? We'll look at the playoff predictor here in a minute and kind of show that schedule and how it lays out. But let's start with the lines. The Packers are snagged. The Packers already snagged a huge 27-13 win over Detroit back in week 1. The head-to-head victory is a nice little advantage to have in their back pocket since it's the first tiebreaker. Their rematch is on Thanksgiving in Detroit. A win there give them a season sweep and a powerful tiebreaker. A loss, though, splits the series and could throw things into chaos with the divisional records. Guys, it's going to come down to Thanksgiving Day. Think about that. You're going to be gathered around family. It's going to be that early. I think we're the 1 o'clock game, if I remember correctly, right? You're going to be that early window, right? And you're going to get to watch Packers, Lions, Thanksgiving Day, playoff implications on the line. I'm going to challenge people to stop fanning scared. Stop fanning with rage, like, well, they better win that game, or, well, we're going to be screwed if they don't win that. Embrace the fact that this is playoff football already. I love it, man. It's just, there's nothing better than it, man. There's nothing better than it. So moving along here, then you have the Bears and the Vikings. Chicago's been playing with a ton of confidence. The Packers have to face them at home in a few weeks. The Vikings, who many wrote off, are back at 500 and are getting rookie J.J. McCarthy back from injury. Minnesota is not a team you can overlook, especially in a late season road game. Completely agree with that take. Completely agree. However, people are making J.J. McCarthy sound like he's just some kind of, Hall of Fame franchise quarterback. They're not winning because J.J. McCarthy right now. Right? Let's just be honest about it. And I think it was 2 weeks ago, their defense gave up a boatload of points. So you've seen a little crack in the armor there in B-Flow's defense in Minnesota. So I'm excited to dive into the tape when it is Vikings week and see, all right, how did they crack that armor? Because that defense has been pretty good up to this point. Let's see where they rank now in terms of pass defense. So, yeah, look how far the Vikings fell. They fell down to what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th, tied for 7th in the league in EPA per dropback. Again, what are they doing this year? They are playing 28% cover 2 zone. All right. Second most defense is cover 3 zone. Third most is cover 4 zone with cover 1 man. And they're still playing 5% cover 0. They do like to bring a little zero blitz from time to time. So they've pressed into zone coverage a little bit more this year than their traditional man coverage that B-Flow like to run coming out of New England way back in the day under Bill Belichick, obviously. So, all right. To win the division, the formula is tough but clear. They have to dominate these last few divisional matchups. If they sweep the Lions and win at least one of their other two, they'll be in an excellent position. But anything less than 2 wins in that stretch, and the door swings wide open for Detroit or Chicago. The path guarantees them a home playoff game, and getting that game at Lambeau in January is a game changer. I know some people would disagree with that. I do think it's a game changer. I think it is something that now you have a younger football team playing those games in the cold. Isn't going to be the weather's not going to affect the players as much as when you had a little bit older roster, obviously, like with your Aaron Rodgers, players like that, right? So the dogfight, securing a wild card spot. Now let's shift gears to a wild card route here, okay? All right. Let me hit the chat before we dive into the wild card spot. I just want to see if what everybody's saying in here. Just want to make sure. All right. Oh, here we go. This is great, Soder. I'm glad you said this. And they won't stop running out of the gun. Have you looked at the numbers, Soder? And listen, I'm not trying to roast you in front of everybody. I just challenge you, go look at the numbers. If you listen to Ryan Schlip's Packernet podcast, he did a breakdown the other day. It was under center. I want to say it was in goal situations it might have been, or maybe it was a 3rd and short. He took a specific scenario, and under center, we were 0 for 6, picking up the first down or getting the touchdown, whatever it was. And out of shotgun set, we had a lot more success. This has been a complaint. This hasn't, like, Soder's not the first person to complain about. This has been a complaint going on back when Aaron Rodgers was here under Matt LaFleur. I don't understand why we're running out of the gun. I'll explain to you why we're running out of the gun. The success rate has always been better running out of the gun. I did a breakdown. It was in 2022, I think it was, Aaron's last year. Early in the season, people were complaining about this very thing. The problem is you'll hear other people say this stuff and you just assume, okay, well, that means they're better running the ball under center than they are out of the gun. And then when you go and dive into the numbers, we have more explosive runs out of the gun. We have more basically yards per carry out of the gun. That's what it was when I did that breakdown. And then I took it a step further and went through all the Shanahan tree, the head coaches or the offensive coordinators of Shanahan's tree, and did an extensive deep dive into that. Everybody was averaging more yards per carry out of the gun. Now you'll get some people that'll randomly pop up with statistics sometimes, and when you ask them where did you pull that number from, they won't respond. Right? It's just this common opinion that running out of the gun is worse than running out of under center, and it's not the case. It's statistically not the case. And now you get into other different offensive schemes, you may get some stats bleed in that show otherwise, but you're more effective running out of the gun than you are under center. Now, where I will agree with Soder in that regard is when you run out of center, you can get more play action off of it, right? Because they seem to sell out to the run a little bit more. The problem is we're not running outside zone anymore because we signed Josh Jacobs. I remember us having this conversation when the Packers signed Josh Jacobs early, right? When they went and got him in free agency, immediately we were like, man, he's not a stretch run. I think he could do it, but this is an inside guy. This is a gap scheme type guy. This isn't a zone, running back, right? And sure enough, man, we drifted completely away from stretch. And what I mean by stretch, guys, is stretch is an outside zone play, right? And some people call it flow, right? When you're running the ball outside and you're in a zone blocking scheme, the offensive line is blocking horizontally, right? And you're looking for a cutback. Many people hear stretch, they hear outside zone, they think run off tackle, run off the if you've got a tight end over there, you're trying to get to the sideline. That's not the case. You want to get the defense flowing horizontally and then cut back off of that. I think Josh Jacobs can do that. But again, none of us expected him to press in or continue to press into outside zone like we did with Aaron Jones, because that's not Josh Jacobs' strength. So that's one thing I would like to see more. And that's where Soder, I agree with you, man. If you run under center and you start showing those outside flow plays, those stretch plays, outside zone, and boot action off of that, that's the thing we're not seeing right now. And I would like to see more of that for sure. And as Coach Lynn points out, where are our gap scheme old linemen? It's weird, right, Coach? It's like half of this line was built for zone and the other was built for gap. And it's like, and then you go out and you get bigger, right? You go get Aaron Banks, you go get Anthony Belton in the draft, and okay, we're just going to run duo and maul people, right? And now what you're seeing is pin and pull in this last game. Although it's hard to argue with the results, we went pin and pull, and what happened? We got an 18-yard explosive. So just something to keep our eye on there too. Soder says Jenkins' play has really messed up the interior run. I want to disagree, Soder, but I can't, man. I expected him to play a lot better at center. And maybe somebody in the chat, maybe you guys can pull the receipts and y'all called that, moving him to center. You didn't think he's going to be effective. I thought he was going to be much better at center. But if you read between the lines a little bit too, and the fact that the Packers were not going to budge on that contract and give him a little bit of guaranteed money, a little bit of security, kind of tells you, I think they're done with Elton after this year. That's what it feels like. I could be wrong. And maybe he gets hot in the second half and they do give him some guaranteed money. Who knows? But I just think it's crazy too, because, some people will say, well, moving back to guard, he played better there. I disagree. The last couple of years, he hasn't been great at guard. I mean, he hasn't been good for a while now. I say good. He hasn't been that all-pro level, right, that we've seen from Elton there in his best years. And when they signed him, I felt like that was a little bit too much money to sign for an interior. And I immediately thought, oh, they must have come to some kind of agreement. He may play tackle. Because I think when they signed him, Bach was still on the team, and I thought that would be our left tackle. So obviously Rasheed Walker had differing opinions on that, right? So, all right, let's talk about the dogfight. Securing a wild card spot, all right? So let's forget the division for a second, and let's go kind of not a worst case scenario, but I guess it is a worst case. It's not a worst case. A worser, if that's a word. Probably not. A worse case scenario as opposed to the division, right? All right, let's say the Packers don't win the division. Maybe they drop that Thanksgiving game to the Lions and lose to the Vikings on the road. Their playoff hopes are far from over, but the path gets a whole lot tougher. Welcome to the NFC wildcard race, a brutal, crowded street fight. Right now, the wild card spots are jammed with powerhouse teams. The NFC West alone has the Rams and the 49ers, who both have 6 wins already. The NFC is so top heavy that some really good teams won't even be leading their division. That's the level of competition Green Bay would be up against. In this scenario, every single game is crucial, especially the non divisional ones. Looking at the schedule again, the Packers have a couple of games you'd call must wins. Their upcoming game against the 2-7 New York Giants, I think that's next week, is one of them. You just can't afford to drop that game. All right. But then there are the monster matchups, the ones that will truly show what this team is made of. They have the Monday Night Football showdown against the 6-2 Philadelphia Eagles, obviously this week. This game is massive for conference record tiebreakers. Then in mid-December, they have to travel to face the Denver Broncos. A win in either of those games would be a huge boost to their resume and their wild card chances. A loss in both would shrink their margin of error to almost nothing. Now, people see the Broncos game. I had that as a loss for the Packers. You watch the game last night and you go, man, the Broncos didn't play very well against the Raiders. Again, it's not just the Packers that happens to. That happens every week in the NFL. So if the Packers get that Broncos team that they face on the road, who knows? They may go out there and beat them by 2 scores. I could also see the Broncos beating the Packers by 2 scores. That's going to be an interesting game. Same thing with the Eagles. We forget. I'm pretty sure you guys double check me on this in the chat. Pretty sure the Eagles got their ass kicked in week 1 against the Cowboys. Did that not happen, or did I dream that? And then you got the Cowboys, who are sitting at 3 wins now. The Packers ended up with whatever it was, a 40-40 tie with the Cowboys. If we're going to be picky, we can't be choosy. If you're going to be picky and go, okay, if you go in and you say, okay, the Packers played like cheeks to the Panthers, therefore they're a bad team, then you got to look at the Eagles and go, the Eagles played like cheeks against the Cowboys, therefore they're a bad team. And nobody's going to do that because the Eagles are sitting in the number 1 seat, just like the Packers were last week or whenever it was, right? So the Eagles did win that game. Okay. No, the Eagles won. What game was it? Let me pull up their schedule, because there was a game that I remember seeing with the Eagles, and I was like, man, they got beat by somebody. And it was like, I thought they were supposed to be the all-world team here. Let me see here real quick. Let me go to NFL Pro, probably the easiest way. It was the Giants. Okay, Jay, appreciate it, man. I'll see if I can pull it up here real quick. I'm not going to put it on the screen, but I'll just read it off, because again, we look at it through the lens of a Packers fan going, man, how can the Packers lose that game? But teams lose tough games all the time. So they lost. The Eagles actually lost 2 in a row, if I'm looking at this correctly, right? They lost to the Broncos in week 5, 21-17. And that was at home, by the way, in Philly. And then they lost on the road to the Giants. Guys, the Giants kicked their teeth in 34-17. 34-17. Now, the positive fans will look at that and go, man, we can beat the Eagles. The Giants beat them 34-17. The negative fans will look at it and go, we play the Giants next week. They're going to kick our teeth in 34-17. No, it's all about matchups. It's all about scheming. It's all about that specific week, right? So, yeah, really, really interesting. So Dallas, they beat Dallas 24-20. They beat the Chiefs 20-17. They beat the Rams 33-26. This is the Eagles, by the way. They beat the Buccaneers 31-25. Then they dropped 2 in a row. The Broncos 21-17. They lost to the Giants 34-17. They come back. They win at the Vikings 28-22. And then they beat the Giants 38-20 last week. So again, you're getting a better Eagles team now. There's no doubt about it. They're coming off the bye week. And again, the negative fans will say they're rested up. Man, they're going to kick our teeth in. They just came off a bye. The positive fans will look up and go, how many times have we seen teams struggle coming out of the bye week? It's like they're a little rusty off the bye. That happens too. So just whichever side you want to pick, I guess. All right, moving along. But then there are the monster matches, so we hit that. All right, the magic number to watch is probably 11 wins. We talk about this every year, right? It used to be the old saying was win 10 and you're in. Now it's 11 with that additional game, right? So the magic number to watch is probably 11 wins. In a conference this competitive, 10 wins might not be enough to get in. The bizarre 40-40 tie against the Dallas Cowboys could also come back as the weird factor in tie-breaking scenarios. That's why I'm grinning. People hated that tie, and I love it. I absolutely love it, man. Take in, blah, blah, blah. weird factor in tie-breaking scenarios, complicating head-to-head comparisons. The wild card path is there for the taking, but it means you'll be scoreboard watching every single week, hoping for teams like the Rams, 49ers, and Seahawks to drop a few games. It's a stressful way to make it to the dance, and it almost certainly means starting the playoffs on the road. It kind of laid it out there. Most fans, they get stressed out over this stuff, right? Like having to scoreboard. I love scoreboard watching, man. I don't know how y'all feel. Like we're going to be doing it Sunday. I hope everybody joins us. We're going to be going live, and Jacob is going to be watching the Vikings game. I'm going to be watching the Bears game, and we're going to be giving you simultaneous kind of play-by-play in each of those games. It's going to be a hate watch party is what we're going to call it, right? We're going to get in here and hate watch the rest of the NFC North since the Packers aren't playing on Sunday. So make sure you guys jump in here and hang out with us. It's going to be absolutely awesome. So, yeah, there you go. That's the wild card. Now, let me ask you guys, what do you think? And this is probably all YouTube geared here stuff. Never mind. Don't even worry about it. The nightmare scenario. Let's talk about the negative now. All right. The nightmare scenario. Write this down. So we've talked about the good and the grueling. Now let's talk about the nightmare. The Packers missed the playoffs entirely. How could that happen? Honestly, it's not as crazy as you might think. And it all comes down to the brutal stretch of games. Picture this. They lose on Thanksgiving to the Lions. Suddenly that head-to-head tiebreaker is gone. Then let's say they stumble at home against a confident Bears team and drop the season finale on the road to Minnesota. In this world, they're now desperately fighting for a wild card spot. But what if they also lose those tough games against the Eagles and the Broncos? It's completely possible. That would put them at 7 losses and their final record landing somewhere around 9-7-1 or even 8-8-1. In a weaker year, that might be enough. But this year, with the NFC West looking like a juggernaut and other teams like the Carolina Panthers suddenly in the hunt at 5-4, a 9-win season just isn't likely to get it done. The recent 16-13 loss of the Panthers, where the offense just couldn't find the end zone, despite Jordan Love throwing for over 270 yards, exposed a major weakness. This team, while talented, has shown flashes of inconsistency, almost like the youngest team in the league, right? We've seen Super Bowl potential, but we've also seen them lay an egg. Their current Super Bowl odds of plus 1,000 suggest about a 9% chance to win it all. But computer rankings are a bit more skeptical, placing them closer to the 15th best team in the league. So the nightmare scenario is one where those inconsistencies pop up at the worst possible time during that tough stretch of divisional and conference games. A late season slide combined with the sheer strength of the NFC could absolutely leave the Packers on the outside looking in come January. It would be a heartbreaking end to a season that feels full of promise. I think we would all agree if the Packers were to miss the playoffs, boy, that gets interesting. That gets really interesting, right? You think Packer fans were calling for Matt LaFleur's head because they lost a tough one to the Carolina Panthers. If they were to miss the playoffs, I'm going to get a sip of coffee. I don't know how this channel is going to last, to be honest with you. I say that somewhat tongue-in-cheek because I'm not surprised. This stuff happens every year. We've been so spoiled as a fan base that it's just every single year we're in it, right? Again, I think the most likely scenario here is a wild card berth when you look at the rest of the schedule. It doesn't mean they can't win the North. They're in the driver's seat. But if I had to put my money on it and say, okay, here's what I think is going to happen with the Packers season, I would probably put my money on they're going to be a wild card team. Let's lay out this scenario real quick. I just want to hit this. I apologize for the ads. There's nothing we can do about it here, but we will see exactly how the playoffs look. If I can get this zoomed in just right, they're going to hammer us with ads here. Okay, so this is the playoff simulator, and hopefully you guys and gals can see that. Let me try to do something a little different here. Give me just a second. Bear with me. Bear with me. I want to make sure you all can see it just fine. I think that's about as good as I can do. All right, let's just focus on the North teams this week, okay? So you got the Giants going to Chicago. Many people think that's a slam dunk win for Chicago, but we just showed you the Giants beat the Eagles by more than 2 scores, right? So it is what it is, you know? Any given Sunday, anything can happen, right? Let's go worst case scenario this week and lay out what it would look like for the Packers. Let's say the Bears win that game, all right? So they win that game. You'll notice down here you've got the division. So the Packers, even with the Bears winning that before the Packers play, the Packers are still leading the North, obviously. It doesn't change anything there. Let's say that Minnesota pulls off a win against the Baltimore Ravens. All right. The Packers are still in first place. What it really comes down to, most important for the NFC North today, is the Detroit Lions at the Washington Commanders. That's going to be the game to really, really key in on. Okay. And that game, I want to say it's a later game too, like a 4 o'clock window game. So maybe we'll bring you guys some kind of action there as well. So let's say that Detroit wins that game, right? Let me scroll down. Figured this out last night that that's what was going on. All right. So Detroit wins that game. They're in second place. And now you got the Packers versus the Eagles. Let's say the Packers win that game, right? They're still holding on to first place. If all the NFC North teams win and the Packers lose, then what's going to happen here, guys, is you're going to see the Packers all of a sudden sink down to third place in the division. The Lions, the Bears would be in first and second. The Packers would be in third. And all of a sudden, the Packers are out of the playoffs. That's just 1 week of worst case scenario, right? But again, like the article said, the Packers control their own destiny. If they get that win against the Eagles, right, then look what happens. You're the number 3 seed and you're still in first place over the Lions. So this week is going to be really, really interesting. It's going to be a catalyst. Let's say that worst case scenario did play out here, and let's jump into next week, and then we'll get ready to wrap up. We jump into next week, and let's do something similar with the North, but let's go in the opposite direction. Let's say the best case scenario happens for the Packers next week. All right. So let's say the 5-4 Vikings beat the 6-3 Bears. All right. Let's say the Packers beat the Giants on the road. All right. And then let's jump over and say that the Eagles beat the Lions. Okay. And then I'm trying to think, who are we missing here? We got the Vikings and Bears play. So there you go. If that scenario happens and Minnesota beats Chicago based off of what we just seen in week 10, what we predicted in week 10, not predicted, but kind of laid out for you guys, the Packers are right back in first place at the number 4 seed. So you see how quick it can change. So if we're going to talk worst case scenarios and be, all doom and gloom as Packer fans, I think we also have the right to talk about the best case scenarios too, right? Honestly, what will probably end up happening is right in the middle. I think that's what will end up happening. Things will kind of fall into place right in the middle of those two scenarios. So if that happens, and then you go into week 12, and again, we're just keying in. We're not really focused on the wild card as much. We're just showing you guys and gals the NFC North matchups. Let's say the Bears and Pittsburgh. Let's say, oh my gosh, can y'all imagine this, guys? Seriously, we got to do a watch party for this if it does not conflict with the Packers schedule. Aaron Rodgers going into Chicago, the owner of the Bears going in to face the Chicago Bears. How fun is that going to be, man? Let's say Aaron goes in there and gets that dub. Let's say the Lions beat the Giants, which I think they will. And let's say the Vikings beat us in week 12, okay? If that happens, if that whole scenario happens right there, and I think that's all the North teams, isn't it? Bears. Yep, that's right. If that happens, the Packers are back out of the playoffs again. So you literally go from we're out of the playoffs, hey, we're back in, we're back out of the playoffs. Guys, the playoffs have already started. That was the whole point of this video, was to get in here and talk with you guys like this. The playoffs are here. Every single game counts. Every single week counts. And we're looking at it through the lens of a Packer fan. The rest of the league, guys, these 6-3 teams, San Francisco, Seattle, all these cats, they're looking at it the same way. If they go in and they drop a few games, like if we go back to week 10 and let's look at some of these teams that are the wild card teams, right? Let's look at like the San Francisco 49ers and the LA Rams. So who do they play? Let's just take a quick glance here. So the 49ers and the Rams actually play each other. One of those teams are going to lose, right? One of them are going to lose. So let's say the Rams upset the Niners on the road there, right? Bang, that happens. Okay. So we had that unfold now. And who is the other wild card team here? Let's say the Seattle Seahawks. Let's say they stumble and they drop one here down the stretch in week 10. Where are the Seahawks at? Let's say they lose to Arizona. That's a division rival. I doubt it'll happen. Let's say it happens, though. Bang, it happens, right? So there you go. They got that loss. So Arizona wins. Now let's jump into the next week and say, let's see who we got here. 49ers at the Cardinals. Let's say that the 49ers lose that game. They drop it. Now look what happens all of a sudden. Green Bay's the number 7 seed. There's your wild card. So everything we're talking about with the Packers leading down this stretch, it all applies to the teams that we just talked about. If we clear everything off, let's reset it all here and just climb down real quick and look at these divisions and look at the conference, I should say. What you're going to be rooting against for the rest of the season are teams like the Seahawks, teams like the Rams, the 49ers, obviously the Lions, the Bears, the Carolina Panthers are in the hunt. I know some fans are convinced the Carolina Panthers are a trash organization. They suck. Well, they're the number 9 seed right now. They're knocking on the wild card door. So I'm sorry, man. I don't care who your opponents are. If your record is 5-4, there's nobody going to be able to convince me that they're a horrible football team. You got a winning record in the National Football League. That's something that's so difficult to do. Again, look at the number 15 seed down here at the bottom with the Giants, right? That's the team that beat Philly by 2 scores. Think about that. The Washington Commanders going into the year was supposed to be a great team. Now they're without their starting quarterback. All bets are off, right? We beat the Commanders pretty convincingly there. What was it, week 2? Detroit's the number 7 team. We beat them by 2 scores at Lambeau in week 1. So at some point, we've all got to acknowledge this is how the league is, man. This is how the league is. Any given Sunday, anything can happen. So Ed Madden points out Arizona has a good record in Seattle. So that's the other aspect of this too, right, Ed? Is like you've got all these little side stories and these side trends that we never even talk about, It's pretty cool, man. Absolutely cool. Ed Madden also said, my money's on A-Rod against the Bears. That's going to be fun. That's going to be really, really fun to watch, man, because he talks trash to those Bear fans. I love how Aaron's still kind of a Packer at heart, which is really, really cool. Yeah. All right. So that's pretty much what I got. I'm just trying to comb through here and see if there's any chats. I didn't miss any super chats. We're good there. Thank y'all so much for jumping in here and hanging out, man. Again, I woke up this morning, grabbed a cup of coffee, and we hit the playoff scenarios last night a little bit. And I thought, let's dive into the North. I wonder what AI thinks about it. Bang, 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 bang. They laid out those scenarios. So listen, go out there and take care of business, man. The way I see it too, if we look at our remaining schedule, let's just end with this. If we look at the remaining schedule here for the rest of the year, I'm going to have to drop that banner down real quick. So what we've got is, there we go. Okay. So we got Philly at home, right? And then you're on the road against New York. If you go out there and let's say you lose to Philly, you win on the road in New York, and let's say you beat the Vikings twice this year. You play them in week 12 and week 18. And let's say you split with the Bears, right? And let's say you lose to the Lions, but you beat Baltimore and you somehow beat Denver, who played pretty bad football last night, you're in the playoffs. So you control your own destiny. There's plenty of time to make this up. It's just looking at it from a realistic standpoint. When we went into the season, you guys remember, I think I had them at, my prediction was 11 to 13 wins is what I started with, right? And then you get off to that hot start, and I said, all right, boys, now we're in 12 to 14 win range, right? Like 12 wins is the floor, 14 is kind of the ceiling. Now, to me, you're back down to something like 10 to 12 wins is the sweet spot, is where you're really, really zeroing in at. So I think the Packers, realistically, if I had to put money on it, I'd say they're going to finish with 11 wins. That's where I would be in that regard. So it's going to be a blast, though, man, seeing how this thing unfolds down the stretch. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Just wanted to kind of do a little bit different type live stream, try to get you guys a little bit more included there, and kind of dive in, just give these different scenarios. And again, man, don't buy into the doom and gloom. This is that time of year. Okay, never mind. This is that time of year where every game, yes, they count, but at the same time, they count for every other team too. That you're going to get team. We're going to look up at the end of this week and go, dang, can you believe that X team beat Y team? That's going to happen, right? It's going to happen for sure. So, Turt McGirt said that tie really jacked up my 11.5. LOL. I bet it did, Turt. I bet it did, man. Again, that tie. Imagine if Matt LaFleur had went for it instead of going for the tie, said we're going for the win, and they lost that game. Boy, I think we all need to kind of tip our cap to him in that regard and deciding, hey, look, we'll just take the tie rather than being overly aggressive and trying to go down and win the ball game. That's definitely one thing that he's done right this year, in my opinion. So, yeah. See, it's amazing, man. We get other fans jump in the chat, and all of a sudden it goes off the rails. Everybody's everybody's being rude with each other. So anyway, we'll get out of here. Appreciate you guys so much. When this video, like I said, we'll cut it out. We'll edit it, try to get it narrowed down in video form, where if you're watching this later, you've seen a much cleaner version as opposed to the live stream. Let us know in the comments what you think about the scenarios we lay out. What's the most likely scenario? Will the Packers win the division? Will they make a wild card? Will they miss playoffs altogether? Let us know in the comments what you think. Make sure you click subscribe, hit that bell icon so you're notified when we go live in the future. Probably going live again here in a few hours, mid-afternoon. If we get some news break, maybe after the practice report and everything comes out, we'll go live again and just chat. There's a couple other NFL topics I wanted to hit on, but I know this is predominantly a Packer channel, and I don't want to flood the channel with just a bunch of NFL content if that's not what you guys and gals want. If you're okay with random NFL content, a storyline like around Rome Odunze, his father, tweeting out that essentially they need to get rid of him. They need to trade him if they're not going to throw him the ball. Now Odunze has Adam Schefter obviously going out there and delivering a message essentially saying, hey, it wasn't my tweet, just kind of paraphrasing. So we got a bunch of little storylines like that. And then, obviously the Marshawn Nealon tragedy, little things like that. Sometimes I just want to go live and have a conversation about it, but I don't want to flood the channel with stuff that you guys, are not interested in. So that being said, we'll see y'all guys later this afternoon or tonight. We'll definitely be going live 6 p.m. Central for PTA Live. We'll dive into the game plan. I'll be adding to it throughout the day. So we'll kind of show you the keys to the Packers getting a win against the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football. It's going to be great. Everybody have a great day. Thank you, Turt. Thank you, Ed. Everybody in the chat. You guys are awesome. Have a wonderful day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Packers.
Here we go.
We're out. Bye, guys.